easy to feel helpless and overwhelmed in difficult situations. We can become consumed by the weight of our problems, making us feel hopeless and defeated. However, as believers, we have been promised that we can depend on God's direction and leave our problems in His hands. There are a lot of verses in the Bible that tell us to have faith and trust in God. Even when things are hard, we need to pray to God about our worries, rely on His wisdom and direction, and have faith that everything is working out for our good. Therefore, let us not be troubled. Rather, let us trust in God's perfect plan for our lives and leave our worries in His hands. When we choose to let go of our worries and anxieties and give them to God, we are surrendering our control and acknowledge His sovereignty. It takes great faith and courage to release our grip on our problems and trust that God will take care of them. But this act of surrender is the first step towards experiencing the peace and comfort that can only come from God. When we allow ourselves to be consumed by our worries, we are often held back by fear and doubt. We become trapped in a cycle of negative thinking that can prevent us from taking the necessary steps to overcome our challenges. By trusting in God, we can break free from this cycle and begin to approach our challenges with a sense of courage and strength. Jesus tells us in John 14 verse 27, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." Jesus knows the human condition and our struggles, but He also knows that we can overcome them with faith in God. Letting go of our worries and placing our faith in God can be a difficult task. It requires us to surrender our control and trust in a power that we cannot always see or understand. However, by doing so, we open ourselves up to a sense of peace and calm that can only come from a deep sense of faith and trust. Trusting in God does not mean that we sit back and do nothing, waiting for Him to solve our problems. It means that we take action, but we do so with the knowledge that God is guiding us and working everything out for our good. In Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, we are reminded to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. At the same time, placing our trust in God does not mean that we ignore the realities of our lives. We must still take action to address our challenges and work towards our goals. However, by doing so with faith and a sense of purpose, we can approach these challenges with a newfound sense of clarity and determination.
Letting go of our worries and trust in God is not always easy. We live in a world that values self-reliance and control. But when we realize that our own efforts are limited, we can turn to God for help. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7 encourages us to do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Trusting in God does not mean that we simply sit back and wait for our problems to disappear. Rather, it means that we acknowledge our limitations and accept that there are certain things beyond our control. By recognizing that we are not alone in our struggles, we can begin to tap into a source of strength and wisdom that can help us navigate even the most difficult situations. God promises to take care of us, to guide us, and to give us peace. But we must be willing to let go of our worries and trust in Him. As believers, we have the assurance that God is always with us and that He is working all things together for our good. So, when you are feeling troubled, remember to leave it in God's hands and trust in His perfect plan for your life. Ultimately, When we let go of our worries and place our trust in God, we are giving ourselves the gift of freedom. We are releasing ourselves from the burden of fear and doubt and embracing a sense of hope and possibility. And while the road may be difficult, we can rest assured that we are not alone and that with faith and perseverance, we can overcome any challenge that comes our way. Psalm 55 verse 22 reminds us that God cares for us and will sustain us through difficult times. Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. This verse gives us the assurance that God is always there for us, no matter what we are going through. When we give our worries to Him, He will sustain us and keep us from being shaken. In Matthew 6 verse 34, Jesus tells us, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." This verse reminds us to focus on the present moment, trusting that God will provide for us in the future. In 1 Peter 5 verse 7, we are told to cast all your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. This verse reminds us that God cares for us deeply and is always ready to listen to our prayers and concerns.
Letting go of our worries and trust in God can be a powerful way to find peace and strength in the face of life's challenges. By recognizing our limitations and embracing our faith, we can tap into a source of guidance and wisdom that can help us navigate even the most difficult situations. So, when you feel your heart becoming troubled, remember to let go and trust in God's guidance and plan for your life. The Bible is filled with verses that remind us to let go of our worries and trust in God. Whether we are facing financial difficulties, health problems, or relationship issues, we can find comfort and peace in the knowledge that God is with us and that He cares for us deeply. So, if you are feeling overwhelmed, remember to turn to God and to let go of your worries, leaving them in His capable hands. Numerous passages in the Bible exhort us to put our faith in God and allow Him to handle our problems. Even in the midst of difficult circumstances, we can find peace and comfort through prayer and growing in our faith in God. Let us hold fast to the promise that God is with us and is always working for our good as we navigate life's ups and downs. Romans 8 verse 28. We can find a sense of peace and security that cannot be found anywhere else by placing our faith in God. It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when we get caught up in our problems. However, we can have faith that everything happens for a reason and that God is working for our good if we put our faith in Him. Leaving our concerns in God's grasp is generally difficult, and it takes a ton of confidence and fortitude to do as such. However, it is a step that must be taken in order to find comfort and peace during difficult times. Although we may not always comprehend the reasons behind certain difficulties, we can have faith that God has a plan for us and will always be by our side, guiding us along the way. When we are experiencing difficulties, it is essential to keep in mind to trust in God and let go of our worries. We can find comfort and peace that cannot be found anywhere else if we give Him our worries and fears.